All right, I'm going to give a little background on how all this happened to me. When I was a boy, about 8 years old, I had a dream, and the very next day, that dream happened just the very same way that I dreamt it. And I was like, oh my God, there is more going on than meets the eye in this reality. And a wild ride it would become. When I was part of the Trailblazers, a gentleman was teaching us about the stars. I felt an unusual connection to the constellation of Orion. I couldn't explain it, but clearly it would become a very profound connection. When I was 16 years old, there was an injured bird, and I put my hands around it and did what I thought was running energy in an attempt to heal it. It didn't exactly work, but I thought I should be able to do this. I was a precocious child, apparently speaking in adult-type words and ideas at an early age. When I was 17, I went to the bookstore to find a book that would explain my ability to read people's minds. Looking in the New Age section of that book on the left-hand side there ghosted off the shelf and fell to my feet. So I was clearly like, okay, here we go. I would read all of the Jane Roberts Seth Material books. By the time I was 19 years old, there was nearly 9 of them. It was my new friend because it was confirming things I was thinking. I was thinking about past lives, parallel realities, alternate timelines, and it taught me that your thoughts create your reality. I was beginning to experience this, such as knowing what numbers would come up on the dice. Was it me? Could I just tell? Could I actually make it be the numbers that I wanted? Indeed I could. Wow, what a palette. I could envision anything I wanted and it would come true. I would be very careful about what I was thinking about because I only wanted the best for everyone. When I was 19 years old, my higher self merged with me and walked me into the mirror for a look. I gazed deeper into my eyes and a voice began to speak to me as my eyes turned green. It told me 5 things. I'd been here before. I lived forever. I would become a spiritual teacher in the end times, and a few other things that I'm not prepared to share. When my dog stepped in a trap and came home limping, I had to take the trap off, and his foot was really looking bad. I was a little freaked out. It was too late to take him to the veterinarian, so I did some healing energy and said I would take him to the vet in the morning. When I woke early in the morning, I took a look, and miraculously, it was as if it never happened. He was completely healed without a trace. So I was right about that bird. A lot of people have been seeing number synchronicities, especially this number. However, when I was in my teens, I was seeing 1122 on the clock. Whenever I was having an epiphany, write it in my journal, or something significant, I would look and there it would be. Was somebody trying to get my attention? What did it mean? I'd been seeing these number synchronicities for almost a decade before I really got to the bottom of it with my trip to Egypt. But before that, nobody had answers. Of course, I wasn't asking everybody either. Back then, very few people were open to talking about paranormal experiences. When I was watching the X-Files and Scully wakes up in the middle of the night, looks at the clock, and it turns from 11:21 to 11:22, I thought for sure somebody must know something about this. There must be something significant about this, Why else would they show this like this? It turns out it was the creator of the show's mother's birthday. But to me, it was confirming that I was having these profound experiences. When I met Gillian Anderson at a bar in about 2000, I was telling her about some of my profound experiences, and she said she's really into this stuff, but David was not. She must have thought I was pretty weird. I was telling her some pretty strange things. When I slept at night, I flew. I traveled all over the place. However, when I was 21 years old, I started to have these dreams where I would wake up, and within the dream, I would wake up and think I was awake and then wake up again, and sometimes this would even happen 3 times in a row. This is often an indication that you're going to begin to have very profound experiences of awakening. One time when I was meditating, I levitated off the bed, did not open my eyes, just realized, oh my God, I'm lifting off the bed, and as soon as I had that thought, I dropped back down. What was our mind capable of? When I had my first channeling when I was 22 years old, I asked what my connection was to the Great Pyramid, and they told me that I am the cornerstone of the Great Pyramid. In 2012, David Wilcock was telling people that he built the Great Pyramid. Well, I remember there being a team of us, and memories were flooding back in. This is why I asked this particular question at the time. I also wanted to know what my connection to King Tut was. That would be revealed when I went to Egypt also for the first time. When I was 24, I had a vision of the future, of a global system where everything was interconnected and all finances were being ran through one platform. In the same year, I was walking down the street in my own neighborhood and I was invited into a house. I could see crystals on the shelf. I thought, oh, great, I get to learn more about this. But instead, the man and the woman told me about the Chinese elders and how old they are, and a military man that ran everything, along with trading platforms and trillions of dollars, and that all this money was for projects. I thought, wow, just think what we could do with 100 million, as well as how could I possibly get involved in this? I pretty much forgot about it, and then when I was 37 years old, I met the man who was responsible for moving the gold to all the central banks, as I was envisioning using 100 million to make movies about conscious media. I also had voices in my head, predominantly starting when I was 24, guiding me, encouraging me to look into things. The primary ascended master that was speaking to me was El Moria. Because of the computer system my father invented in 1967, I had an opportunity to go to work at the Pentagon when I was 25 years old, and I found a place where there was people channeling because I would go to the local bookstores and figure out the psychic fairs and the like. I had a channeling where Mother Mary came through, and she told me that I would write a great book about sacred geometry and numerology. And I have to admit, at the time, I didn't even know what those 2 words meant. When I was about 26 years old, I was introduced to the cosmic scientist who said that he was from the future. And I was interested in virtual reality and how I could take game ideas and put them into a place where it'd be fun to learn. This man was clearly involved in the secret space program with the things that he was sharing, which were out of this world. We all slept together that night at a house where it could accommodate guests, and the experiences that I had being on board a craft and going to the Palladian system and trying out their virtual reality was mind-blowing. Who the heck was this guy, was my thought. And boy, there sure is more going on than meets the eye. Why were all these things happening to me? Were they happening to everybody else? Was my thought also, and apparently not. In the year 1988, most of my friends were getting out of college and trying to figure out what to do. When I was 27 years old, I was in meditation and saw myself sitting around a campfire. I looked next to myself, and there was Jesus. This was extremely vivid, lucid type meditation. When I came out of it, I called up my psychic immediately, a channel friend that I've almost always had access to. And she told me the veil had been ripped asunder. In fact, I was the Apostle Thomas, and I would now begin to bring through many wisdom teachings. Again, I was like, okay, that sounds really cool. I again went down to the metaphysical bookstore, and this is when I discovered the Gnostic scriptures and the Gospel according to Thomas. And again, my mind was being blown as I flipped open the book. It opened right to saying number 22, which was my birthday. And again, more synchronicities confirmed as chills ran up and down my spine with what it said. I felt I knew these words. When the two become one, then you enter the kingdom of heaven. When I was living in Florida in a bad relationship, a voice told me to get up, go down to the beach. Thankfully, I lived a block away, walked on down, sat down for a meditation. The voice said, open your eyes. And I saw an orb over the water, which I thought, oh my God, get me the heck out of here. And then it just zoomed back, turned into just like a little star. And I was like, okay, I'll stay. And then it zoomed back up. And it had a message for me to get out of this relationship and get on with my life. So the next day, I broke up with her and went back to Minnesota, where I had an opportunity to go do a computer job with NATO in Germany or go to California and work for the water and power company. So I slept on which job I should take. I knew when I woke up I needed to go to California. I was there at my new job for maybe 2 weeks when a shuttlecraft landed in the backyard. I consciously boarded it and went up to a mothership. I was shown and told about the future and things that I would do. I was encouraged to move to the middle of nowhere so I could have more contact, which I did. I saw a Arcturian on the ground standing next to a tree the first night I moved into my new place in the middle of nowhere. The beings that I had been interacting with told me that I could call them at any time they would come. So I was testing this, and indeed, they showed up. I wanted to see a spacecraft in broad daylight, so I asked for it, and the next day, this is what I saw. Flying right across the street in front of me. I was living in Northern California, had an opportunity to go to Mount Shasta and participate in the 11/11 first major planetary activation. While I was in meditation, a name was spoken in my head, very loud, Mathues. I did not know what that meant. It took me about a decade to realize, oh, that's my name, that's what they call me. And it took me quite a while to learn that it meant teacher of mathematics or sacred geometry. When I was 29, checking out Drunvalo Melchizedek, listening to a VHS, watching rather, but working on something and listening when I overheard him say that the Great Pyramid was built by 3 people, and one of the names he used was Imhotep. I was like, wow, wait, that's me. Who is that? What is that? But I just knew that that was me. I didn't even really know who that was. So when I began to look and find out, Imhotep made so much sense. Builder of the Great Pyramids, keeper of hidden wisdom. Wow. It was all becoming ever the more so clear to me. And El Morya had been telling me the process of ascension, self-realization, becoming a version of our higher selves was easier than I realized. And I was still surrendering, detaching, letting go, and deepening my connection with Source and becoming more online with my higher self each year. When I was 30 years old, I channeled the 7th seal. This is an image of the exact actual 7th seal The time traveler cosmic scientist friend took a look at it and said, "That's the seal on the Hall of Records door." I was like, wow, because I feel like I sealed the Hall of Records. I'd been having visions and remembrances about this. In fact, this symbol is the sigil of the mystery school from the before times, before it was Egypt, before it's millions of years ago, quite frankly. And I knew this to be the Melchizedek Mystery School. For several years, I could take out groups and ask for a flyby, and ships would indeed give us a view. One time when I was with my cousin, he wanted to be a believer, so I called one in. It looked like this very much on the bottom. It landed down behind some trees, and we were going to go for a ride, but he chickened out. And so rather than get in on it myself, I just said, "Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time." However, there wasn't really a next time because it was too dangerous. During that time frame, there was a lot of crafts that were attempted to be shot down. After many profound synchronicities around 1122 and realizing that the Golden Gate of November 22nd was an extremely important portal for transformation, I heard that there was a group that was renting the Great Pyramid over the period of the 22nd, and they were going to meditate inside the King's Chamber. I wanted to be a part of this, but I didn't have a way to contact the people that were organizing it, so I turned it over to Spirit. If you need me there, want me there, I will show up, but I don't have the money. So the cosmic scientist, time traveler friend, unbeknownst, shows up at my house and says, "You have to go to Egypt. It's the most important thing. Here's the money to do it." So I went, and many profound things happened, and I did end up inside of the King's Chamber for a very profound activation and braiding. When I came outside afterwards, it was about midnight, and this is what I saw when I looked up at the top of the Great Pyramid. The belt stars of Orion were completely aligned. With this braiding, I remembered a great deal more about my past lives, other ones that I had there, being involved in the mystery schools, etc., and began to write my book. I had a near-death experience while I was in the hospital for 3 months because I got Guillain-Barré syndrome and nearly died, as they thought for sure that I was going to die with a double pneumonia. The experience I had in the hospital surrendering and letting go with El Moria speaking to me often, it was a very profound experience because I was having deja vu and I knew I wasn't going to die. When I finally got out of the hospital, I was woken up in the middle of the night and the masters were communicating with me, telling me that I was ready to become the master and they would not be speaking to me in this way any longer. And by the time I was 40, I would be involved in building a new banking system, and it would be housing quadrillions and quintillions of dollars. And as many of you know, we almost launched a new banking system in 2012 before the cabal arrested our top people. And today we have a team with an array of additional teams coordinating many aspects of new systems, new platforms, new technologies to implement a global financial system and new secured internet and safe broadband. When I was down to visit King Tut's tomb, I waited until the room was cleared so I could have my own space tuning in. And I closed my eyes and started to feel this energy rushing through me. And all of a sudden, there's a voice next to me, an Egyptian guide guy pointing at the wall. And this is Osiris. And he's pointing across my vision with a really big watch with digital numbers on it. And it was 11, 22, and 21 seconds, just turning to 22. And I was being interrupted energetically, and so